Hold on a second. Oops.
That's it. Psych.
Yeah.
Hurry up and wait. What is this, a movie?
I know.
It's
I just went
movie
live.
set in Miami.
I don't have my memory card inside my mixer, so I don't want to start.
Movie sets are just like, I guess, the military. Not that I was in the military, but it was definitely a movie set. So hurry up and wait. Hurry up and wait.
Dude, it's so funny because if you look at a movie set, they've got it branched out in the same type of military structure.
Oh, that's true too, right? Supplies and
all the different ranks and all these different people that have these different jobs. It's all under. It's a military structure. It's
well, then again, it was probably started by like those German directors anyway, right? Like,
who knows?
The guys who used to wear like the puffy like riding pants, and stuff, and had the riding crop as a director. What a look! That was a real thing.
All right. Now we got the memory card.
Yeah. I'm good now.
Stereotypes are rooted in fact, aren't they?
Oh yeah. Welcome
Who's
to
this
the
other guy here?
Ethan Indigo. All right, let me do this.
Hey, we're live. Hey, everybody.
Yeah. All right, hold on. Welcome to the Occult Rejects. This episode, I'm already screwing up already, and but we got a couple of rejects here. We got a returning guest, and this person, we got to meet him in person, and awesome dude. We had a blast with this guy, and I definitely wanted to get him back on after we, personally met him. Guy's awesome. But before we introduce the guests, let me introduce the other rejects joining us. And today we got Headless Giant. What is going on, sir? Thank you very much for being here.
How you doing, Nick? Love to be here. We just got done doing a massive trilogue on Sundays. Check that out. Me and Ethan and Ricardo just did it. So it was fantastic, guys. Go check it out. And I've got Alchemy Mondays with Arrows Up. So she's going to be coming on there. And Tuesday, we're going to be doing more Kabbalah 777 with Nick. So check it out and send your stories for my mailbag to headlesshotpodcast@gmail.com, and we will read those on Thursday. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, sir. And we got Ethan Indigo with us. What is going on, Ethan? Thank you very much for coming on.
I'm always excited to be here, Nick. Thanks for putting everything together. Ed, thank you for doing all your research. You were here last
time, right, Ethan?
Yeah, we spoke last time. I was enthralled with your presentation. Very, very interesting. I'm looking forward.
Oh, good. When was that, by the way?
6 months ago, 5 months ago.
Yeah,
5 months ago, something like that. I don't know. I'm
7 months ago, I think. Yeah.
So several months ago, anyway.
Probably been some more discovery since then, I'm sure.
Oh, I would think so.
Yeah. Fascinating topic. I am a writer and an observer of our times. I have easy to find on the social media, Ethan Indigo. I got a few books out there and some articles. I write little articles frequently and books in. And glad to be here.
Oh, you froze for a second.
Indigo got frozen.
Yeah, he froze up for a second.
I was just being self-gratuitous, talking about my writing. Unimportant anyway.
The internet canceled you. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. What is your topic of writing, if I may ask?
I've written on a couple of things of fiction, and that really are not
what kind of fiction?
To share. I wrote that's one of my main books, The Tao of Thoth.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I explore the 7 and 8 principles in relation to the Bagua and the the Western formation of the Agdawad, and relate.
What was the last one?
Care or patience.
Okay.
And that's kind of like with the seed of life, it has the 7 concentric circles with the 8th surrounding it. And when you add patience to your practice or to your whatever aspect of these principles, or care, patient care, you really get results in effect, I guess. And it's like the 7 chakras and our body or container. And I've written a lot about 4. I've written a few books, kind of exploring one being the Matrix of 4, and the other being the 4th initiation, exploring these ideas through philosophical and initiatory kind of concepts.
Yeah, he's actually written a lot, actually. So
Yeah, I have written a lot. I don't sell much either, too, but whatever. So
you don't advertise much either, but yeah. So.
Well, there you go too.
It's hard to sell books. Yeah,
it is the nature of the beast. You have to do things out of love.
Yeah, exactly.
You said it. You got to do it out of love.
I'm not a painter, but I suggest painting for the love of painting, not painting for the love of commerce.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's just they're different concepts. Hopefully one day we'll have some sort of universal income and everyone can be an artist full time.
Ed, so please, even though you've been on here before and Headless, let all the other new listeners and people who don't know.
I was definitely looking forward to this. Okay, yeah, I've heard some complaints that I got to go on about my origin story too long, but I'd like to suggest that I've been interested in archaeology since I was an 8-year-old kid in Bridgeport, Pennsylvania, and I found a little Egyptian Shabti sarcophagus in the front yard. Of all places, probably someone's souvenir or jewelry, who knows? But I think the point was it told that little kid that there is mysteries in the world still to be solved, that not everything is so cut and dry. And then later on, I saw the show In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, which is why I always do my show, or he'll be my plug. Let's Talk Tridactyls at 7 p.m. Sundays Eastern Standard Time. Just because I want to mimic that wonderful time slot that I used to watch, 7 p.m., which reminds me, a nice segue is let's moment of silence for the original. Let's rest in peace, Eric von Däniken, the original ancient alien theorist, has transgressed to other realms or dimensions or what have you.
When did that happen? When did he die?
I think yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe it was today, but it was a different time zone.
Wow.
What's the date today?
Today is the 11th. January.
Yeah, he may have died today in Europe, possibly.
Wow, I had no idea.
So let's remember von Däniken, where without him, we wouldn't have likely the first two In Search Of were actually movies with Rod Serling from Twilight Zone. And I think he actually narrates one of them, maybe he narrates two. So you want the narrator of Twilight Zone doing your In Search Of Ancient Alien stuff. Definitely watch those things. But yeah, so also In Search Of is where I saw the Patterson video. People say, Ed, you became an archaeologist to be like Indiana Jones. And actually it was the Bigfoot video because I told my mother about the Bigfoot video. She said it was fake. And then her aunts gave me the Time Life collection of books. And there was Evolution, Early Man. And I saw the Early Man book and I was like, oh, so things like this really existed on the planet? So maybe that's not fake. And so that's what propelled me. I'm also a sometimes actor, so I could have went in the theater. Thankfully, I guess I was already a working actor. I'm like, let me do something I like, right? And I even had a revelation once. I was bartending and I was reading Carl Sagan's book, The Demon Haunted World, I think it was called. I think I left the book there, by the way. I don't think I finished it. I remember closing it and saying, I'm going to major in anthropology. And that's what I did. I majored in anthropology. It's a dual degree with social sciences and an ethnic studies background. While I was at school, I ran the Lambda Alpha Anthropology Club, and I started volunteering at the local museum, which turned into greater opportunities. And I later became, from a free volunteer and just a tour guide, I became the activities coordinator and ran their education department, which also provided archaeologists opportunities. So the museum did contracted work. We worked with another company named Janus that was working with the Army Corps of Engineers. The Army Corps of Engineers, years ago, they had stopped the flow of Okeechobee. So they had gone back and they started reflowing the water back, fixing the problems they started. And so we would do surveys in old sugarcane fields and whatnot, old cow fields too. It's in cow fields, right, guys? So those were fun times, and even one time I got to choose the dig site, and digging through the site, lo and behold, pulled a white shirt projectile point. So when people ask me if you were an archaeologist, I was a paid working archaeologist. And whether you're a newbie or you have a bachelor's degree or you're a doctor, everybody's digging. Everybody took turns with the shovel and the sifter. I'm glad I was sifting when I found the shirt Arrowhead. So yeah, that's my like background there. I've also been the paleotech for Bobby DePalma. Bobby DePalma is sort of a paleontological prodigy when he was younger. I guess he's been around now, but he's on BBC's Attenborough. So these are the type of people that, you know, my friends were all, I call it the silly hat gang. And that's what I liked about going to the Quest for Ancient Civilizations. Everybody's running around with their silly hats, and it reminded me of the old days with my buddies doing museum work.
Very nice story, man. So what got you into Tridactyls?
You know, I ignored the Google feed like probably millions of other people, right? Literally. And my girlfriend came and she's like, did you take a look at those alien mummies? And I'm like, she's like, I think you want to take another look at that. So I cite her as a sort of an interesting point of she was my point of authority, meaning that I trusted her further analysis for me to continue and analyze more. And I think that's where some of this starts. So yeah, some of this might start with a trust me, bro. You know?
That's cool.
So, but that's where I first looked into it, and I saw the testimonies and slideshows of Dr. Jose Zalce Benitez, who happens to be the lead forensic officer for the Mexican Navy. So he's a forensic anthropologist. You know, my bioanthropology teacher was a forensic anthropologist. He would do, they would like call him as a professional witness to like identify bodies in like mass graves and whatnot. And so that's just mentioning the sort of mentors and men that, you know, I've experienced. For example, I went and visited the Miami Circle. I had a private ground survey, walking survey with a Russian geologist and the Miami-Dade archaeologist, the late Gary Biter, who was my mentor. I got to be careful. Gentlemen, when you get older, I think about, you know, your testosterone level changes. I can get emotional about any of this stuff, you know, because I'm remaniscing. I'm talking about people in the past. I've probably already been broken down on your show. I've done it at least. Yeah. I've done it a couple of times. I've gotten better. I've gotten better.
I was like, yo, this is the first time he's on here. This guy's crying. I was like, fuck, what did I do?
It's, you know, it's the funny thing. I'm an actor, so you could say I was acting, but really what it tells you is it's the actors that are in touch with their emotions, and that's why we could do the scenes, because what am I going to do? I'm probably going to do a scene one day, and I'm going to remember my time on your show as, you know, motivation. That's how it works, not vice versa, you know. Yeah, so it's happened. I've gotten, you know, emotional thinking how the Maori call these little green heart-shaped beings with 3 fingers and 3 toes ancestors. That's choked me up before. Like, why is that, you know, the case? So anyway, it wasn't just Zalce Benitez, though, and his testimony, but you would think that a forensic anthropologist who happens to work for the Mexican Navy would be enough for people to accept this story. But instead, it turns into ad hominem attacks and strange, petty focuses, which isn't on the science. If you catch people talking about people during this whole Nazca mummies thing, that's a problem. It's not about the people. It's about the science of the bodies. Let's look at numbers. Let's look at things. Everything else is just minutia. So I also read Cliff Miles' report, who's a Canadian paleontologist. I forgot what he was. He's a published peer-reviewed paleontologist. So he's written papers on dinosaurs. Unfortunately, he may have made a critical error of combining his report on the Tridactyls with a history of ufology, which may have tainted the report, because now you have a bunch of speculative stuff. What's he laughing about? I can't even hear him. I see you laughing.
The comment that somebody posted on the bottom.
Ed Cassis is 100 times better than Georgina Rosa. We're like, yep.
Who's Georgina Rosa?
He was a guest that fucked us.
Canceled on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh Lord. So yeah, so Cliff Miles wrote a paper report that you could read with the scans. And so for me, coming from a museum background of anthropology and paleontology, to hear these two guys speak, I could at least understand where they were coming from, and I could see what they were pointing out as anomalous, strange features. Now, for me, the personal enlightenment was, and I mean almost in a woeful spiritual fashion, is that on the day of a solar eclipse, even to add to the mythology. It was October 2023, and I woke up and said, I got to write this down, and I started writing my constant companion theory. We were never alone, based on the fact I recognized the tridactyls from petroglyphs in both Canada and the Caribbean. So you can imagine my poor girlfriend when I'm looking at her saying, I know what these are. I've seen these before. She's thinking I'm nuts. But when we go, and if you want, we could look at those today. When you look at these petroglyphs, you see heart-shaped, benign-looking faces with three-fingered hands. And there's other peripheral petroglyphs that are associated with these. There's spirals that could represent water or fertility or both. Serpents and mother goddess imagery, all with this tridactyl imagery. And so that was the beginning of my personal journey, is that understanding what they were saying about the bodies, registering that these were real living things. And that's like it's like a turnkey sort of event that happens in your brain, believing that what you're seeing is real. I think we may literally be seeing amongst a public is a literal cognitive dissonance might be happening. And it sounds, I hate to guess motives. I hate to play armchair psychologist. I do, or sociologist, because we're talking about mass events here. But I think some of that's happening. And it's been very important for me to be very upfront and as truthful. And I'm not going to tiptoe around this. And let's just get to what I suggest these things are. And then everyone can move on with whatever their belief system is. But I would like to give everyone a base to go from. Too many talking heads are coming on to shows going, well, they have 3 fingers and 3 toes and big heads. And that's all we know right now. It's not. I know a lot more, especially when you look at the little ones. But I think the focus was made for the bigger ones, because I think the 2 teams of researchers, there's essentially the Mexican team and a Peruvian team. I guess they're collaborating, plus myself independently. I think those researchers wanted to focus on the bigger ones. They may have thought that was an easier hurdle to demonstrate validity, because so many other people were associating the 60-centimeter ones with a couple of dolls that were confiscated at the airport. To be honest, I would like to look at one of those dolls. Maybe one is a doll, but was the other one even examined, or is a light now cast on the Ministry of Culture, elements of it, because they have come around. They've recognized Maria and Wawita now as cultural heritage artifacts. It's an important legal move that I think had to be done if we wanted to stop seeing these bodies spirited out of the country. Because ultimately, I think, yes.
Let's go into your constant contact paper, because I think that gives everybody a proper frame. Constant companion. That gives everybody the groundwork that you're working on. We're not talking about something that's alien. We're talking about something that is deeply ingrained in our subconscious minds.
Right. So, the Tridactyls has been, because they are this sort of big, they're this big event. I don't know what I say. They're this paradigm shifting event. I know it always sounds like I'm being hyperbolic. I'm actually trying to just be as clear as possible that this seems to be a paradigm shifting event, and it has allowed me the freedom of reimagining past interpretations of artifacts, and perhaps even interpretations how history went down. It's allowed me to find other valid hypotheses that we can now form into a new one. So yeah, the big part of the constant companion theory that was part of the Enlightenment was the heart-shaped faces of the beings that are found in all the petroglyphs. Now, it's beautiful. It's great. You have to paint it. I suggest green. All right. But yeah, these heart-shaped images are all over the planet. And even if you just go to Peru, you don't have to follow any of mine. Just go to the Paracas cultures, Nazca cultures, Wari cultures. Look at their ceramics. Look at their fabrics. There are little benign-looking, cherub-faced tridactyl beings. I mean, this art, a lot of it looks like this is either a first-person witness or, my dad saw this, and this is what he told me to create. Those weren't the only ones. I mentioned Bella Coola, Canada. the Caribbean. I mean, I should probably take a trip to the Caribbean. That's really where or I should be searching limestone around Florida to see if I can find my own, right? Forget the ones that are already found. That would be great. But from there, I found the tiki of the Maori, which they call the ancestor, as I mentioned. The Syrian eye idols of Tel Brak, which are these little gingerbread-looking ETs. Perhaps the watchers from our biblical stories, because what is one of the biggest features of these beings is the eyes. The Permian bronze animal-style castings, which is a European culture now, which depicts little bronze depictions of three-figure families with three fingers, almost as though they've captured this image in time. It's almost a candid look of a family of tridactyls. Of course, the Dogu ceramics. Did I say that right? The Dogon ceramics. Oh, no, see, I am getting it. There's the Dogu. There's probably a connection, right? There's the Dogon of Africa, and then there's the Joan of Japan. But there probably is a connection. But anyway, their ceramics, some of the best, almost hyper-realistic depictions of what I think tridactyls. And that culture also runs with another material artifact called the Magatama, which looks like little larvas or little other archaeologists say embryos or fetuses, you know. And in the other big cultural complex that really sparked my interest was the Hongsheng pig dragon artifacts. So these here, when I first saw these, many of this might be a replica, but it's perfect replica if it is. These made out of jade. I realized, oh, this looks like a tridactyl. I think they were aware of the beings. It's another strange one. Very strange. And so I got 3 of those today. I got 3 Hongsheng pig dragons. And that complex also has dragon men and other different, it extends to other shapes and whatnot. So it seemed to me, after going back and looking at all these cultures, it would seem as though in the Caribbean, there are mother goddesses. To the Maori, their ancestors. To the Syrians, they were fertility beings. And there's even, I think, hyper-realistic stone carving of Makemake in the cave on Easter Island. That's a creator being. So all of these myths of all these heart-shaped beings, many with 3 fingers, all seem to be saying the same thing. These are some sort of creator beings. This is not my belief. This is what I found through interpretation. Now, again, the skeptics will probably attack this as, how will they attack this? Coincidence, usually. That's the other thing. Coincidence, pareidolia. I get pareidolia for that and the biology so many times. It's just like, you know, there's another term, I think it's called agnosia, which means you look at something and you don't know what the hell you're looking at. So when people say pareidolia, I say, okay, maybe it's agnosia, I believe is the pronunciation. Agnosia.
Very true.
Good stuff, huh?
So exactly. So let's talk about when these artifacts were first unearthed, and there has been a lot of controversy. We've even seen the government of Peru actually try to get active in taking these artifacts and being stopped in the process. They actually attacked one of the press conferences looking for these artifacts and trying to take them. And a lot of people missed that. This is at the heart of the politics in Peru.
Yeah. But it looks like there's going to be cooperation now, because now that Peru has designated Maria and Huahuita as cultural heritage pieces, but not only that, they're cultural heritage pieces under the care of Ica University, as they have been. These people, I know they're going to need funding. I see how the mummies are being stored. I would love to somehow, be a part of the fundraising and helping this museum get started, because we're going to need climate control and security and sprinklers. It's a lot, and all these things deserve all of that and more.
Well, Ed, what we've seen throughout all of history is that sometimes the most otherworldly of artifacts get treated with the most otherworldly of irresponsibility, too. We find it over and over again when it comes to giant skeletons and all these other artifacts that go into the museum and never make it out. That's what I'm concerned about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so obviously a government has a dangerous role in that, but I think it's looking like the Ministry of Culture has gone the other way. What you do bring up, though, is the danger of skeptics. So while one group might be suggesting, hey, let's at least look into this some more, if another group is saying, okay, it's time to stop looking into this, that's like a red flag to me. Like, okay, anyone saying case closed or things like that, it's a little suspicious. So,
right.
What is so really? It's almost like the skeptics are almost more dangerous in that regard. Oh, the irony.
In some ways, yeah, because they're when I've seen six-handed or six-fingered handprints in areas that are supposed to have giants, they've gone to great lengths to try and cover those things up and sort of buff that out of history. Any rough patches, we've got to sort of smooth down into something more manageable. And I just don't believe that we should be focused on that sort of smoothing down process anymore. Now it's time to pay attention to the anomalies.
Pay attention to the anomalies. It's no longer about coincidences and pareidolia. That is the low branch skeptic move of dismissal, and it ends conversation, much of that stuff. That's why I think I said earlier before we started the show, we all have to be careful that we're encouraging imagination. We're encouraging hope. We're encouraging speculation. Is it good? Speculation is good. So anyone that's trying to put a damper on someone else's, again, that's another just red flag. You go do you.
Right. Especially with what you do, where you're just showing people the art and you're letting their imaginations take them where they want to go. I think that's one of the things people are missing is if we had contact with something that is more advanced than us in the past, it would necessarily show itself in our artwork as like a higher being of some kind. It would necessarily have that sort of feel to it.
And what happens in the art, I mentioned earlier, and this is a common thing an anthropologist will do, is try to guess the generation of the art because you can see art changes. And so what I think happens with a lot of our tridactyl imagery, at some point it went from being hyper-realistic to what I say a use of steganography and perspective anamorphosis. That is, that the knowledge and images of the beings were actually concealed in various art forms. Or conversely, they became completely anthropomorphized and you have your Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or they became completely ionic and iconic and just became symbols. So they can go in two completely different directions. Either one tend to draw you away. I don't know if purposely, or if this is just a conscious, what should I say, a social memory loss. You eventually just forget the past and it becomes these myths, legends, and folktales. One of the biggest fables is I think they're calling it a fable or fairy tale. I'm not sure of the particular title, is the Frog Prince. That is one of the most prominent myths, and that is an animal husband myth, and it involves metamorphosis, this myth. So here's something that the Frog Prince in many ways could be as important of a tale as something from someone's holy book.
Well, there are so many different stories and fables about lizards that change, right? There's some sort of a changeability when it comes to lizards,
frogs.
But where do we see that in nature? We do see them going from one phase to the other, but when they're in their final form, it's not like they revert back. Like there's a certain progression to it, but it's not necessarily like you would have with the Frog Prince. Like that's a little bit more drastic than
I think one of the interesting things. What's that? Go ahead. I cut you off.
Well, what you could imagine is an amphibious illusion, right? So you do have amphibious illusions, and that would make sense too with an amphibian form of life like the Tridactyls might be.
Right. And of course, that's I call it my amphibian assertion that since that, from the very beginning, we saw that they had tridactyly, they had the 3 fingers. That is something you can find in nature amongst frogs and salamanders. So isn't that funny too? How interesting how we have these bodies with the 3 fingers and we want to immediately say aliens, when in reality we could say immediately amphibians, right? And then there's allusions to them having 0 lungs, which would be cutaneous breathing. And if they were cutaneous breathers, they could be cutaneous waste removers. So something like an amphibian's waste would be ammonia, and I wonder what kind of a smell that would leave. But it didn't stop there. In fact, in a recent video of George Knapp was interviewing some people, and he alluded to my Euro style. He alluded to the tailbone. He was a little wordy when he said it, but he asked about the tailbone. It was important to me because what he was getting at is Maria doesn't have a coccyx like the rest of us does. And what she has is what I believe is a Euro style, meaning looks like a long fused piece of vertebra, but it's where a amphibian tail was resorbed. And you can see further evidence of that if you were to look, and everyone should be able to have Maria, by the way. You can have your own access. You can be in the dicoms of Maria and Wawita yourselves and look up her butt and see if you see sort of a trapezoidal-looking bone where that could represent a Euro style. And another point that was brought up is that she doesn't have a navel. So if she doesn't have a navel, and if she has this evidence of possibly having a tail, then as absurd as it sounds, Maria could be a form of a mermaid thanks to amphibian metamorphosis, which is, of course, my other theory is that these beings have the amphibian larva in their bodies as we speak. And I suggest that the metal implants and the diatomaceous earth combined with the cadmium chloride is all part of a larva management system, because what I noticed when I go into the bones, and again, if you want to look at some of that today, the larvae appear to have bored their way into pretty much all regions of the body, into the skull, into furculas, into fingers and toes. And so I suggest that diatomaceous earth wasn't just to preserve the bodies. That diatomaceous earth, first of all, would probably suffocate a cutaneous breather. And now you combine this with something as toxic as cadmium chloride. What is that going to do?
So are you saying that at likely at the moment of death, the thing started to breed and transform inside the body?
I think they were well aware of this phenomenon. It might be a sort of toxic result of the hybridization, because those little bodies are still 3 to 5% primate or human, for that matter. And the eggs, in my opinion, this is one of these finer details that you don't hear people talk about. So in my opinion, my hypothesis so far is it looks like the eggs are outside of this central canal that connects to the cloaca. Probably should deserve a further look on even myself, but I like to put these things out there. The eggs are on the outside of the cloaca. That's odd, and that's a problem. So again, in amphibians, there's normal processes like ovoviviparity where the young are born within, some fully developed. Also, amphibians have things like gastric brooding, so that they're in the belly, or mouth brooding, and maybe even the father might carry the young in his mouth. So all of these other things are definite possibilities, but I do believe that they were quite well aware of this. And a specimen like Alberto, so another detail that no one ever talks about, so they've got so many cool traits, are these otic capsules, these otic ear capsules. They have encased ear capsules within their skull for a specimen that would go underwater. I suggest it's something between a frog and a cetacean, looking like very almost whale-like. Well, Alberto's appears to be, I don't even think he has a right one for some reason. That's something I realized recently. But his left one appears to have been removed from the interior and moved up to the top of his skull, where now you can see some of the auditory canals on the side of his head. So I suggest they were well aware of these things, and that's what all these implants are for. These implants are either extraction zones perhaps constant extraction zones over and over again. I don't know. So the body's almost acting like more like, hives or broods. Yeah, that there's that Sebastian with his neck implant. One guy said he saw writing. Look, I've been looking at a lot of writing. First of all, in my opinion, alien writing, it's going to look like? It's going to look like writing. Because these are like the tutelary beings, I think, of planet Earth. So there should be some logic to it. There should be some symbols. And I see a lot of symbols out there today that they seem nonsensical and non-repeating. It's just not, they don't look like language.
Ed.
This is even worse, though. The implant on Sebastian, it doesn't even look like writing. But if you look on the interior of the implant, it looks like boring holes that you might find like a termite might do into wood. But I suggest it's from those larval beings within. Yes, question.
I've got a question. So have you considered that they might have been farmed or some sort of product that they produce?
I am considering this at this point. I'm considering at this point, are these just hosts? Was it an honorable thing to do to be a host? Are these the gods that were probably carried from all the way from China down through Southeast Asia, across the Pacific to the South, to the Americas? Is that what happened? Were these ancestral beings, as you might carry something on a litter, you might see even in a Catholic procession today as a modern analogy? Because again, it seems as though they were well aware of the larva. Alberto also has a hip implant. Well, I was in his hip just the other day with the scans, and there's another image of a larva eating part of it. I've found larvas in the furculas, the wishbones. And these wishbones, when you look at them, are fractured. That's the other thing that you don't hear people talking about, is if you zoom in, the bones are actually compromised. But I suggest they're compromised by boring amphibian larvae, and they're able to bore because they have these rostrum-like beaks and possibly some proto-canines, if you will.
I wanted to ask you. You mentioned that they may have been from China, and maybe for the people that haven't listened before, you mentioned previously that they did DNA that they looked at the DNA of these beings and found there to be Han Chinese DNA.
Han and right? In Myanmar.
And that's what
DNA.
I was going to ask. What you might hypothesize off of that is that you think that they're from there and were hybrids, or that they were somehow made there. What do you hypothesize?
Yeah.
I know you can't say for certain, so I'm just saying.
No, I've got a good answer for you. But what was the last question? Last part of your statement?
No, that was it. That was it. I just want to know what you think about where they're from, and how they.
So going back to putting all those petroglyphs together and realizing it's not just about a mother goddess. Really, the full title, I would say, is ultimately at the beginning of human cosmology, it starts with a water serpent mother goddess cult, if you will. And not, cult in anthropology just means a religion based on, well, actually, she wouldn't be a cult. She would be the religion. Any other religion that came after her would be considered a cult. So I suggest a mother goddess serpent cult stems from the Himalayan plateau and what used to be Mega Lake Gobi before Gobi Desert. And I suggest from this point, and traditional academics don't like this term, I suggest a hyperdiffusion occurred spreading from this Himalayan Mega Lake Gobi and corresponding with a modern day out of Asia theory. You got to have Africa, you got to have Asia. The apes are coming from Northwest Africa. And I don't know if I talked about the orangutans last time. It's very interesting that orangutans have a very complex genetic background, and that they're so far away from the other apes in Southeast Asia. I suggest that the orangutans might be some form of a seed bank. If things go south, these creatures are bred to be individuals, so there's not going to be destroyed by rampant disease, and they'll be harder to hunt. Of course, we are doing a terrible job at the palm oil over there, aren't we? So anyway, I think I got a little far off. So yeah, you said a serpent mother. As I'm saying, a serpent mother goddess is at the heart of this. I mean, my research suggests that maybe even this region is the home of even biblical myths. If that was Mega Lake Gobi, look at all the exit points that leave that desert. Great swaths of sediment left that region. Now, if you cross map that with language Urhimats, that is homelands, I prefer maybe they're not even homelands, but they're actually their ending points, their destinations. If you look at the languages of the world and you imagine a great flood dispersing 12 tribes or 12 cities, as they say in some folk tales of the Gobi Desert, and spread them out through the world, we could bring them back and radiate them to this one area. And I did a little bit of AI with the language dispersion, and it looked like language was moving a mile a year, which was interesting. And with Oceania, it was moving 2 miles a year, which sort of explains the boats. And then Native American languages, coincidentally, also looked like 2 miles a year. So people were saying they crossed across the land bridge. They didn't need no bridge. Their languages were moving fast on the water. So, yeah, I mean, that Mega Lake Gobi could be your myth point for the Tower of Babel, for Noah's Ark, for the Great Flood. Why everyone always says, like, oh, why are all these cultures have these flood myths? And then again, academia will say, coincidence. But I can't deal with coincidences anymore. That's not how anthropology works for me. I don't go with coincidences, right? There has to be an origin point. That's one of the reasons I got into this. There's always a reason for everything we do in humanity. Everything.
Well, there is the other
that reason happens to be the Tridactyls.
There is the other possibility that this toad, this weird thing that happens in some toads, is they produce 5-MeO-DMT from their backs. And if they are being used as cult objects and they are being toured around, it would kind of make sense if they produced something similar to maybe this amphibian toxin.
I have something for you. So, not DMT, as I say, the Tridactyls are the impetus for our cosmology. I say the biology of the Tridactyls, well, the cosmology, or let's use the word mythology. Mythology predicts the biology of the Tridactyls because the Tridactyls' biology is dependent on the mythology. And I use the example of the third eye. Or another parallel myth is the Nagamani, which is a Nagamani is a serpent stone said to reside in cobras. So when I see these myths in the third eye, I said to myself, because I believe these beings are the tutelary beings and the impetus for most beliefs, I said, I'll bet you these guys have a third eye. And I even made a prediction. I'll bet you that third eye is going to be here. That's a pneumatic region. I call it the kappa after a Japanese yokai mythological creature that collects water in its head. But looking at a scan from underneath, it looks very much like a human fontanelle, which is very strange. It could be a soft spot. Well, sure enough, I got the scans of Alberto, and I looked. Actually, it wasn't even. I didn't get the scans. These were on the-alien-project.com. Anybody can go there right now. There's so many specimens. You can interact with the 3D. These guys are the original researchers, and you can also go to tridactyls.org. And they have Maria and Wawita available, and you can apply for the other ones. And you can go to my site, tridactyls.com, if you want to read my cultural assertions. And I wrote a 50-page paper on their physical traits. I wanted to make sure that we went through each part of this anomalous. That was the one good thing about skeptics. You know, skeptics would be like, what's with the limbs? Those joints would never work. Well, it looks like they're probably hinge joints, again, like an amphibian. So it's just they're different setups.
The entire mythology of the kappa almost mirrors what you would be saying about these beings to begin with. So it says a yokai is called the kappa, famous Japanese water spirit, known for a dish-like depression on its head that holds water, which is the source of its power. So as you're talking about the third eye, again, that would be the source of its power. The kappa is weakened when you bow respectfully to him. Right? So
yeah, because then he bows back and he dumps his water.
there is that aspect. Now, what if this water is some sort of powerful thing? What if that's the thing that
Well,
gets you high and
maybe.
has this experience? That's why it's in the head depression. That's why it's.
Well, in actuality, though, in that very depression is where I spotted a parietal pineal complex. So not only a pineal gland, but a parietal eye that you might find something like in a tuatara, which is it's not a lizard, but a type of reptile that is like a lizard. But another parallel is in lamprey. Lamprey have this parietal pineal complex. So technically, it's not even just a third eye. It's a third and fourth eye because they're both likely photoreceptors. What I did was I sent a scan to the expert in parietal pineal complexes who discovered one in a 50 million year old monitor lizard. And I didn't tell him what he was seeing. I just sent him the pictures. And he said, oh, well, that creature looks like a primate or a mammal with its binocular forward-facing view. Why does it have a dual gland complex at the top of its skull? And I was like, thank you very much. You've been very helpful. So that's another little trait that people don't talk about. Now, that, of course, that needs to be verified by others. This is just my own supposition. But again, I did have it, vaguely peer reviewed, if you will. I had it trust me, bro, reviewed.
Trust me, bro.
Another,
sometimes you got to go with the trust me, bro.
I wonder if you've looked into this correspondence of mythos. The Hopi tradition says that you're familiar. They talk about they were living in the third world and it was destroyed, and the ant people, their companion actually guides them to the underground cavern and saves them from the flood and enables their food to grow and teaches them and then brings them back to the earth. And it's like the exact kind of teacher savior.
It's all related. It's all the same. One event happened, or one continuous group of actions occurred, right? So we've always looked at these stories and sort of we've passed them off. I've ignored them as fairy tales, essentially, right? Tall tales, et cetera, et cetera. Now we have to reevaluate all of this.
Right.
And clearly, this is something that's part of it's no longer about coincidence. It's not independent innovation where each culture makes up their own myths. It's clearly hyper diffusion of certain beliefs over and over again, and we have to stop pretending that it isn't.
I wonder, to that point, if there are any other specifically South American groups that might use the term ant people or anything.
Oh, there
similar.
are, yeah. There is. There's this one video that goes around where they show a couple tribesmen a picture of an alien, and the tribesmen say, that's ant people. And also, if you notice, I think it's the Hopi. The ant people name is very similar to like Anunnaki.
It is. I forget what it is specifically.
And when you combine the Ainu with their kami, it's Ainu kami. And also, even that Naki has what I call the Naga phoneme in it, the sound, and Ki many times is a goddess sound. So there's a goddess morpheme. So there's a lot to be said, even just in, I suggest if you're looking for a lost civilization, try looking into these morphemes I speak of, the sound, which I say is related to the Naga and may have translated west into various lakes as Ang, and then that may have ended up to the Proto-Europeans as Anguilla, as in eels, and possibly even angels. So there's clues even in just tiny bits of sound. Did you say Kabbalah earlier, right? Another byproduct of this was literally rediscovering a lost, forgotten god named Ka. Yeah, I read the Nilamata Purana every week. It's a sort of a Mahabharata sort of peripheral book. Takes place in the Kashmiri region. And it's some of the origins of the Naga people. And
I just did a quick AI search, so I've been questioning their truthfulness really recently, but
Mm-hmm.
the ant people, it says, are the Anu Sinum.
Okay.
So the Anu is right there.
There you go.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry
And
to
again,
interrupt.
it's even the Ainu with the Joman culture. So.
Was it a Nazca lines have an ant on there?
Yeah, an ant or it could be an ant or a spider or something. That's true. Yeah. They do call it an ant, don't they? Do they call it an ant or some people call it a spider? I don't know. I think maybe you're right. It is an ant. Yeah. So, I mean, if you really want to see the ant people too, I think like the smaller, even less primate, maybe 0%. Like there's the species, the ones Nukari and Suye, which are very bestial looking. There is nothing absolutely. I don't think there's any primate in them. So that they would very much be ant people, I think. Even though they're really, their teeth look like lampreys. Let's face it. The Alien Project also called them reptilians. I say they're more amphibians. They use the term insectoids, but they only have 4 limbs. So I do think there are some invertebrate parallels there. This whole center axial duct that these little ones have might be more related to a worm, which, again, worm is another term for people even use for dragons. You know what? You talked about the Asian cultures before. Yeah, so the DNA was Han and Myanmar. And, some of these clans are literally a place called Nagaland. And these tribes will tattoo what looks like the temporal bones and the supraorbital arches of the tridactyls on their face, as well as a hashtag pattern of their skin. When you look at a close-up of their skin, it matches hashtags that we use every day, or a rhomboid pattern, a pattern that I saw in ceramics that I had a feeling represented reptiles. And then when I finally saw a close-up of the skin, it was hashtags and rhomboid patterns. Again, details that people are missing. There's a theory that Maria may have had tape on her face because they see a pattern of cross-hatching. And they think I'm backtracking, but I already had the theory out. I already have pictures of the rhomboid and cross-hatching. And I was like, well, maybe that's just the skin. And they, that's not true. Whatever. You're making up stuff. I'm like, well, I already posted about that like last year. So anyway.
Was it the Anasazi that you were talking about earlier, Ed?
What's that?
I think you're trying to think of a name of the pre-Hopi people. Was it Anasazi?
Oh, no. I mean, I was going to bring up the Kachina. There's that Ka morpheme, the Kabbalah. So, I've kind of come up with my own sort of folkloric proto-language. I'm trying to decipher what some of this means. And Ka appears to be a name for a alpha male god, likely the son of the goddess. And in one of the early Sanskrit scripts is a very serpentine letter for their primary alpha letter, and it's Ka. And then when I read the Nilamata Purana, there was a series of sentences that said Brahma is the Prajapati, the creator. Kubera is the Prajapati, the creator. And Ka is the creator. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, my suspicions are right. I had a feeling that this alphabet, alpha, I have a feeling that even in our alphabet, in other letters, what we're seeing is depictions of these beings. I mean, the earliest Chinese script for God, sky, Tian, looks like a tiny being with anomalous limbs and a big head. Why would a little dwarf-like being be used to represent God in the sky?
Well, God's my judge here says, I don't know if you touched on it, but the Egyptian temple had a green amphibious god. It has a water pool. They don't know how deep it refills itself to a certain level. A mystery. This goes back to the Ogdod and Kek, the frog god, right? So they had frog gods as the original outpouring of life from the water.
Yeah, and
Tridactyls were all over Egypt.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at my Temple of Hathor, where it looks like steganography was used to conceal hyper-realistic faces of tridactyls in the pillars that tourists see every day by the thousands. Let me know if you guys want to start looking at some stuff too,
Yeah, pull it up, please.
Yeah.
There was something earlier you said just another random thing I just wanted to throw out there because it popped into my head. You had mentioned earlier about amphibians and reptiles and like smelling like ammonia. I have heard of abductees have said that they smell
Right.
as well.
Exactly. So anyway, what we have here is Josephina, just in the background there. I don't know if there's anything particular you would want to look at Josephina, or if you would like me to pull up some cultural stuff.
Oh, whatever you think.
Whatever you got.
Well, we got this here, so we can take a look at it.
One question I wanted, maybe you could answer by looking
Yeah.
at this. I wanted to ask, I think you kind of answered this already, but the breastplate, you're theorizing that it controlled the breeding process, which might have overwhelmed.
I think the breastplate could very well have been preemptive, because as these are, and we're going to pull up a better image for you guys, as these beings are four-limb first developers. So they're interesting in that they have a tail that they retain and lose, making them like frogs, but they also have four-limb first development, like a axolotl, a salamander. Oh, you guys aren't.
And so you're seeing these different phases of development in multiple beings in one body.
Yes.
Weird.
Yes. Weird. I mean, it's not that weird to me, only because I did predict it. There's even a video of me doing a lecture where I said I think I'm going to find these in the mouth and the skull as well, based on the mythos. Myths like the mind-born motif, or life from the mouth, or born from the mouth, or born from the serpent's mouth. These motifs we've seen before. So yeah, the implants. I've also considered, are the implants like for magnetic breasts? You know, did they have to feed these? But this implant here, these may have came after Artemis. Artemis has implants all down the middle, which is where I first started to suggest, oviviviparity is a problem. The larvae are being born from the eggs, and then they are getting stuck into these stomach ribs, right? Because these guys have not just this ribs on the side, the left and the right, like we do. They have the gastralia stomach ribs of like a crocodile.
Wow.
And that would probably help support the body with cutaneous breathing. By the way, those arms are longer than the legs, probably resulting in that beginning. And it also means they could probably be pretty active on forelegs. So can we see anything
every one of them had a breastplate? I'm sorry.
No. So what I'm saying is it's not just, I say overall management, right? So it might not all of them have been entranceways. For example, Alberto has a hip implant. So what it looks like is as they're allowing these beings to do certain damage. Maybe the damage was done cross ocean or something. Maybe it was something in that regards. Maybe they just didn't have access to a saline pool, and some of this happened while they were alive. Maybe more of it happened afterwards, and then, as we suggested, they just became sort of hives or broods. Let's see if we can get in closer to this implant and this.
Now, you said this was Artemis, correct?
No, this is Josephina. Artemis has implants all down her front. Sebastian is one of my biggest proponents for this larva management, because while some people suggest there is writing on the implant on his neck, if you look on the inside, it looks like the boring you would see from like a termite or some sort of insect. And I've found plenty of larvae just on the other side of his implant. So between that and seeing larvae boring through bone near Alberto's implant, plus they're in the skulls. So let's see if we can even see one right now. We'll probably have to switch to a different setting. Let's try soft tissue setting, where the bones are anything high density will be more reflective. And we can try just to even, of course, we're going to have to remove a layer or two here. So let's go in from the top. All right, we're going down to the furcula. And already you can see there's a contrast. There is the high density white bone, and we start to see anomalous soft tissue gray shapes. which depending on, well, if we get lucky, depending on, we could come up with something that looks hyper realistic to a blurry, what is that? It's a little bit of a game here because I'm cutting through layers and I'm playing with the density to try to gleam the best images of what could be soft tissue, like even in that bone up there. What's going to happen too, the size is going to vary depending on how close the bone is and the larva is to when the scanning camera went by. So right here, for all I know, this very well could be a close-up of a larva. I wouldn't bet my life on it at this stage because I try not to point out things if I'm not sure. But any of these gray soft shapes, here's a good one. Right there, right underneath the dot. Look at that. So what I can see first is the two black eyes. And what we can do is, if we don't trust ourselves, we can even try to find this in, maybe another scan and try to find where that last one was that I just dropped. That was near the furcula, right? So the furcula is the wishbone that some say is a fused clavicle. Okay, I like the term furcula because it gives it one Latin term. But we're still plenty of soft tissue. There's plenty of to be seen. I suggest everyone gets a copy of the Maria one so they can find it herself. See, now I can't even find this guy. Anyway, let's just keep looking then. Again, gray soft tissue and eyes. So now what I can do is, let me put full screen so you can see what's behind my body here. And we can see if we come up with anything sciencey. Okay. So what we can do is we can hover our mouse over various parts like the otic ear capsule. And then I can read as to what the intensity number is. And this is bone, and it's coming up 2,300. But now I see here, there appears to be two black dots coming out of the ear and some other gray mass. I can try to play with the intensity to see if we can we pull this out even more? We might be able to do better. You play with the lighting and you see other things come out over here. But we are focused on this here. Let's keep with that. And now if those are really eyes, or they should come up with something equal to air, -265. That's good. And now let's see, if I move over here where the possible rostrum or beak is, I'm getting an intensity of 388, but not as high as the bone. And then if I move over to the soft tissue, it's saying 149. So there you go. There's a little bit of simple science for you. Just real easy science. So I can verify the intensities of all these different things: bone, rostrum, beak, soft tissue, and eyes. So that's a little bit of science for you guys.
Wow. Well, I brought up not Diana, but Artemis, because I think what you're basing that naming off of is Artemis of Ephesus, which had crawling with these sort of lumpy protuberances. They called them bull testicles in the
Where
making
were they?
of this. But this is the Artemis of Ephesus, or Diana of Ephesus, in Turkey, right?
Oh.
Right below.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Artemis, interesting.
Yeah, Artemis might represent an older model. I don't know if the flat-faced ones are newer or younger than the other ones, but she has so many implants. I wonder if they got better at dealing with them and maybe even were precautionary. But a lot of this probably did happen after they died. I think all this massive amounts of damage. But again, I think even our myths of Medusa and whatnot are alluding to, because we're in the skull right here. And I'm looking in the skull, and we're looking at, again, there's soft tissue, serpentine shapes within the tiny bone. So someone asked, well, Ed, how could you possibly be seeing these if the other researchers aren't? Well, for one, because I knew to look for them. And 2, I knew they would be small and we would have to use this soft tissue setting. So again, all these gray blobs with these little black dots, I contend these are mostly larvae than not. Let's go to the body. Let's go to a different view of the body.
Oh, we can't see any of it, just in case. I'll let you know.
Oh, thanks. I've been talking too. So we're in the torso here. I see we're already past some of the ribs, but I'm also already seeing soft tissue shapes. And by the way, these are like 0.5 millimeter slices. So that's the other reason why I'm able to see these. A lot of the other researchers, it's funny too, because there are researchers posting their pictures and scans, and every now and then, if you zoom in, you can see shapes. So once again here, this clues me in the shape itself. Remember our old cordiform heart-shaped faces? It still applies here. And the white reflections many times are, again, those rostrum beaks. Oop, I left a dot there. I didn't want to.
Excuse my ignorance, but I'm in some of the my ignorant perspective, I felt like some of it was non-symmetrical. Is that what maybe cued you into this, or is there something going on with the? It seems like the sides weren't symmetrical.
Oh, on the beings?
Yeah.
On the full-size beings are not symmetrical?
Yeah. Again, it's just what my.
Here's a good one. Yeah, we'll address that. But like this right here, this is this is practically hyper realistic. And I don't even know if I've seen this one before. So I'm going to screenshot that. This is basically like a little frog person is coming out of the skull. I don't know how else to describe this to you. So that is there's the void eyes. Once again, the reflective beak. And it looks like we're even getting at least the unicarpal. Most of the time, they're caught engaged in predation, so there's usually a confusion because they're dining on either another decayed member or an actual younger juvenile. Again, another one here. We have an eye and an eyelid. And again, we're on the soft tissue setting. We're in the body now, aren't we? Where are we? We're in the body. Wow.
Each other in that phase?
Yeah, they're different ages. So there's larger ones that you might call a water cat or an underwater panther based on archaeology depictions. And they'll predate on lancet smaller versions. I've identified tiny newborn larvae that look like they're pink in color, which is kind of creepy because is that like a mammal trait? I guess there's some amphibians in it. Then they grow into larger white lancets. Then they start to become a darker color and start to grow the forelimbs. There's a lot here, guys. We did get lucky today. This is in the torso. I know it looks like a massive crap, but if you zoom in and we go through each tiny scan, you sometimes get lucky and there's even more of a reveal. But this is what's going to really change the whole topic is if I had a DR in front of my name, we probably wouldn't even be talking about this anymore. Yeah. We would just pass right over Rogan. We'd go right to the evening news if there was but yeah, look at this here. Look at this, you guys. Almost hyper realistic. This is a creature turning its head sideways. Also, many times the parietal eye and the pineal gland, because of their calcification, are also reflective. So this is a head turned sideways. I know it's super blurry, but let's see how big this is. Let's take out our ruler just so you know what we're dealing with. Yeah. It's under a centimeter. And sometimes too, I realize I might even be able to put a Python script on this, and we might be able to get more out of it. But that's all of this gray mass, double black eyes. These are little ET beings, for lack of a better word. Isn't this wild? Yeah, man. I mean, this one's great. This thing's like coming at you that's his little foot right there. Well, again, I'd love to try to find it elsewhere, right? Let's put a mark in him And can we find him even maybe in our 3D model? That would be wild. They're down there. Let's see what we got, guys. We're going to remove some layers. We're getting into Josephina. Josephina is the holotype. So technically, this is specimen number 1, at least of the small ones. And here we are again. We are inside. We can see, again, more soft gray tissue, but yet there are some reflective points. And those reflective points could be either beaks or, oh, look at that, in the limbs here. All right, so what are we? I get so ADHD because it's, in my opinion, the body is full of them. So here's like 2 on top of each other. Again, rostrum, beak. You can even see make out their little slit eyes. Now, let me show you while we're doing this. How is everybody out there?
Good.
Let me. I'm going to go ahead and pull up just my advert for today's show. I do my live stream at 7 p.m. But I just put like a whole bunch of my recent larva finds, and there we go. Let's go full screen for that, shall we? And so here's just a whole bunch of them from a variety of bodies. See any alike?
You can see the faces, right?
Oh yeah.
Can
Yeah.
They're little faces of little baby ETs. This is what people say pareidolia. That's why I try to overwhelm you with as many images as possible. Oh, and you're asking, this one here looks like a 4-limb first one. I should probably pull up the 4-limb first meme too, just so you can see that and see that. The ancients depicted these. That's what that clued me in. So throughout my journey, you would hear me say things like, that's what's fun about the social media. The social media is just continuing with posting, showing what I post. So some theory that comes out, I can later prove it, which is pretty cool. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and, what are we pulling up? We're going to pull up just a meme showing you info meme. I call them info memes. It's kind of how I started, with just trying to translate information from the researchers and just try to do my due diligence like I would a teacher normally. Disseminating information, yeah? Let me tell you what I found. I can see I've posted. Here we go. Awesome. Well, maybe we'll examine some other stuff. It's amazing how just the Twitter is sometimes just as much of a great tool as anything else. So here's captures of 4-limb first tridactyl metamorphosis. So they're past the serpentine stage. It looks like at least 3 out of 4 of them are engaged in sibling predation. So there is a smaller one, many times either gripped in their hands or getting near their mouths. And just, I believe, Nazca culture. So it just goes to show you the Nazca were well aware, and maybe even well aware that at a microscopic level that you might be able to pick up their strange spinal cord. They have a armored spine, a armored zigzag spine. There's another motif for you. The zigzag motif I can see within there. This was the Hathor temple of Dendra, where I suggest the tridactyl faces conceal the steganography here. Perspective anamorphosis. So yeah, most of the time I do try to focus on the little bodies and the larva because I feel like it's that important and it relates to the other finds of the diatomaceous earth and the implants. But at times, yeah, depending if I get lucky with the scans, like we're having a good day today, actually. I know a lot of it looks kind of blurry, but we're pretty fortunate today. I'm seeing a lot of really cool possibilities. And we can move in, look for our, I don't know if we'll be able to find our specimen here. Where was it? It's one of those numbers. We may have to change angles. And this is what I do a lot of times. I'm trying to find, and look, we're doing good. We found some great images. I'm trying to find the best skeptic killer images because, again, this is not shared by the traditional researchers from Peru and Mexico. They do not. They've put out specifically messages saying that we don't agree or understand this. Oh, boy. You know, it's fun. I think I was on Ricardo's podcast and the shamans. Look at this guy here. You see him? This one's kind of cute. Let's see. There you go. They do this head torquing where it looks like they turn their head. Also, a part of the predation, ironically, is I think they're going for that kappa region, and they might be going for that sweet pineal gland within. Also, in cephalopods, the optic system plays a role in reproduction. So if these are parthenogenic beings with a optic neuroendocrine reproductive system, that means they might be able to literally think creation into being.
What?
Now, do you guys see that? Do you see that this is a turning its head? Again, there's our black dots. And what we can do, we can check our science. We're getting, it looks like an 83, 103 for the beak. We're in the negatives for the black whole eye. That's good. Let's see, is this flesh? 36, 28, 106. So anyway, yeah, man. So I'm always looking because there's literally a chance that there's like just these hyper realistic, full on depictions of these tridactyls, juveniles. What do you think?
Stuff is crazy looking.
Yeah. Well, we got from the chat, God's my only judge. She was talking about this place, the Osirion and Abydos. So it's got a lot of the features that you were mentioning. The Osirion and Abydos is a mysterious megalithic underground temple, part of Seti I's funerary complex, designed as a symbolic tomb for the god Osiris, featuring a massive granite blocks, water channels, and unique construction, unlike any other Egyptian temples. Baffling archaeologists with its ancient techniques, debated age, some suggest Old Kingdom, and enduring enigma. Right? So this is behind Seti I's temple, connected by a subterranean passage. Design resembles a valley of the king's tomb with central hall surrounded by water, creating an island effect, simulating Osiris's birth. Construction built with immense, tightly fitted granite blocks, some 60 tons, lacking mortar, suggesting advanced or different techniques than contemporary structures. Water, a unique deep water source, fills the central canal, defying removal and a hinting at its intended design. Inscriptions contain religious texts, including the Book of Gates, but much remains unfinished or inaccessible. Symbolic tomb, cenotaph for Seti I, linking him with Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Dating debate, of course. While connected to Seti I's 13th century BC, its megalithic style leads some to question if its core is much older. I think so. If it's an Osirion, come on. Engineering marvel. Its precise stonework and design showcase incredible engineering and profound spiritual beliefs, making it a significant archaeological find. So yeah, we could find these weird kind of, these are...
Water's important to these beings. If these are amphibians, water is going to be important. Well, land, if they want to breed with the previous generation of primates.
Right.
So yeah, and a lot of these cultures say things like the Menehune, they build waterways overnight. So, again, just sitting here, just another great image, almost hyper-realistic eyes. Looks like there's another being here. Maybe they're both eating the same object. Those are pretty good eyes, I have to say, for a scan. I mean, you again, keep in mind, these are very, very small. So I'm having a good day, just so you know that these gray shapes are actually pretty good finds today. What else, though? I feel like this, and again, this could be even ahead here. Look at that. You have to double check.
Has there ever been, at least in rumor even, any other similar discovered mummified beings? Only in this one location?
I think this is like the first 3-finger documentation, right? I don't know, but I mean, there's the closest I would suggest are the Paracas skulls. And there's not a lot of mythology on this sort of larva thing, but definitely in the Paracas culture, in the South American cultures, you can see the serpentine shapes. You can see water cats as well. What I mean is you can see the forelimb first development. You can see
D-Dunking Dan was commenting at the Quest for Ancient Civilizations that there was a head-binding culture in Washington State that there's been a ton of archaeological fraud to cover up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know about that. So it sounds like the fraud was successful.
Right, but why are they binding their heads? What are they trying to be like?
I think they're trying to be like Maria and Montserrat. And Maria and Montserrat were just honoring the ancestors that came before them. I think ultimately, religion isn't about a worship of anything. Religion is remembrance of the ancestors. In fact, isn't that one of the etymological definitions of religion is remembering, rebinding? You're rebinding. And so by saying it over and over again, you're remembering the ancestors. And, their homes, the ancestral subterranean homes, may have become, later we would call them tombs. Oh, they were tombs. They might not have been tombs originally. They may have been homes at first that segued into tombs. What do you guys think of this image? You see this little cute head? The little band down it and the 2 eyes? A little arm hanging off? Looks like biting some other head? That's a pretty good one, guys. Regardless, find me I've already had like radiologists say like, well, that's just muscle. Oh, yeah? I had one dentist say, no, that's just a nerve ending. I'm like, well, why am I finding it everywhere? That's same pareidolia. So, yeah, again, I've found these it's consistent across forms. Even when other researchers post videos and images, many times you can still see, if you zoom in, there is soft tissue, strange, anomalous shapes. And at the very least, they could tell us what they think it is, right? Let's see. There's sometimes a little frog, like these little images, almost like frog-like people. Because that's what the Tridactyls are, essentially. They're amphibians. We can see it in their supraorbital arches. There is Northwest Native American frog as husband myths where the princess goes underground, and when she comes back, she ends up vomiting out life, vomiting out worms. Yeah, worms and maggots in the myths. I found pretty much all the animal mythology in human history. It's never about the animal. It's always about how does the animal remind the ancestors of their ancestors. Let's see. I thought I had something cool. Oh, maybe not. But yeah, each click of the mouse, honestly, deserves inspection. So it's not like it's also easy just to do this. You have to zoom in. You have to go back and forth with your mouse. You have to change the intensity. If any of you guys get the Maria thing, we should just have we should have Maria class. Oh, look at this little guy here. This little Moby Dick figure here. Yeah, we should just have everybody do Maria at the same time. Everybody, okay, class, open your Maria scans. And we can go through it together and see the various morphological traits. Because when you'll hear the talking heads on all the shows say, they'll talk about the 3 fingers, they'll talk about the toes, they'll talk about the elongated head, because we know the Paracaskulls. It's interesting, but they seem to be woefully neglecting Josephina and her furcula, her crocodilian stomach ribs, her parietal pineal gland in her head. Even the fact that these are actually, I consider these dual brain, guys. Let's check that out. These are, it's something I don't always get a chance to talk about. But again, it's a growing topic. It's almost like a video game that you're not good at. You have to keep returning to the scans and keep looking and seeing what you find. I don't really like this. Let's go to x-rays. There's different settings. Okay. So I'm used to seeing it more with Louisa. Looks like Josephina has maybe some more brain left in her than Louisa. But there is actually a bony separation between the back part of the skull. So where we have like one occipital bump, these guys look like they have 2. In fact, you can almost see that heart shape return, because it's almost as though it's not just a brain that's separated. It looks like that there's actually 2 distinct brain cavities. One here and one there. So that could be another interesting part of this tale. And again, the ear capsules is something that, again, a lot of the researchers don't even mention. I'm not sure why. I guess maybe there are people who don't know what these are. I've done my due diligence and I've tried to examine every piece. And again, these are like a frog-like or whale-like ear bone. You can see again, there's usually tridactyl larvae around it.
Yeah. Sorry, do you know, in regards to the dual brains area, are there any other animals on Earth that have that trait? Frogs or salamanders or anything?
Boy, there isn't a lot that has that one, actually, because I can't even. It's funny you say that. Normally, I do have a parallel animal to mention off the top of my head. I want to suggest there might be an insect. I could do a quick cursory look just in my own chat here, but I don't think that's very, I don't think that's common at all. So maybe that is an indicator of how old they are. Maybe that's the trait that indicates that they're a Genesis taxon. They are the ancestral beings to all. Proto-amphibians, basal tetrapods, perhaps some of the first to walk on land. So we'll see. I'm asking, I have my AI all loaded up with Tridactyl documents. But that's funny you asked that, and off the top of my head, I don't have an answer, and I usually do. So.
Well, yeah, you related so many other animals' qualities with the being potentially in that one. I just wondered. Okay. Really seem like a rarity.
Second major neural control center could be found in cephalopods and insects. Yeah. So they're saying that things like a ganglion acts as a primitive brain. So, okay, at least there is some parallels. Let's see. Isn't this weird? People are suggesting even in humans that we have this nervous system and gastrointestinal tract that is widely referred to as a second brain. That's a weird thing. Okay, well, at least there's a little bit of parallels there, right?
Splanchnic ganglion.
Oh, and planarian flatworms. Okay, that's just I say these are proto. If you want to hear the full sentence, they're proto-amphibian basal tetrapods with invertebrate parallels, is what I suggest. So again, if you have invertebrate parallels, we're talking about something that is crossing quite possibly that great vertebrate divide. How wild is that?
That would be crazy.
So you can see there's definitely a lot more to it at the very least than what we're getting from the talking heads.
Well, if they've been here, right? I mean, look, who knows? They might be from outer space, but I'm thinking that they were probably from here.
Right. When I look at the traits of a bird like furcula, crocodilian-like ribs, a parietal pineal complex, possible invertebrate parallel, or at least, invertebrate parallel reproductive system, you would have to go back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of years for all of these morphological traits to be in one animal. And when you look at Victoria's unknown DNA, which is suggested to be as high as 65% or more, again, you would have to go back hundreds and hundreds of millions of years just to find a known hit of a living earth animal. So regardless, though, these are all earthly traits. So I like the term as they're a possible genesis taxon, which would go with the morphology, it would go with the unknown DNA, and it would even go with the cultural assertions from our own ancestors, not mine. You know, it's funny. We live in this weird time where it's like we have to respect everyone's beliefs, but not that one. You know what I mean?
And they keep finding hominids. They keep finding ancient hominids that were around at the same time as us. So it's like the idea that there wouldn't be other species. It doesn't make sense. A lot of this stuff plays by the same rules. It's just different morphology, different creatures, you know?
Yeah. It's good stuff. It's really kept me busy. I've never been happier to have my degree. You know, the museum was a dream job, and it's sad that it closed. But if I didn't take that anthropology class, I wouldn't have ever seen those petroglyphs. So, you know, what is the value of education? Is it really the lesson I had that day, or was it the time and place opportunity? Was that the lesson, you know? Absolutely. You still see the brain matter here. You know, interestingly on Louisa, which we could probably even, if we wanted, you guys want to see, I think we've been on one specimen the whole time. You guys want to see another specimen? Or
throw one up and we'll look at it for a little bit before we wrap it up. Sure.
Yeah. I am not even looking at the time, so I just figured you guys kept listening, so I'm just going to keep talking. Yeah, so we can go ahead and let's pull up Louisa. Or no, let's not do Louisa because we need to do one of the different ones. Let's do Montserrat. Everyone likes Montserrat. They say, you know, she's pregnant. It's very difficult to locate her fetus, and it's also not centrally located. Some people cite her clutched hands as an indicator of a pregnant being, but many of them have their clutched hands over their abdomen. It could be from the pain of having their insides devoured. But, you know, there's also, they're putting out these virtual forensic reports, autopsies, and they're suggesting that there's like murder weapons that were used. And I suggest if those murder weapons are a centimeter wide, those might not be murder weapons and may simply just be the tridactyl boring holes once again. So we are looking into Montserrat. I hope there she is, coming in hot. One of the larger beings, meaning she has less tridactyl and more primate in her. So we can see how there's definitely similarities between obviously the tridactylism.
What are the percentage differences of primate?
Well, Montserrat technically hasn't had her DNA done, but if we were to base her on Maria, it varies.
Just Maria, because it's bigger or other things?
Bigger, yeah, bigger. And we can see that the head has definitely evolved in shape. So again, when you look at Maria's DNA, it depends on, you know, there's different DNA reports. So if I were to cherry pick my choice, some say she's 100% human. There's another one that says she's 30 to 33%. And that makes a little more sense to me.
This area is recording a amazing story of what these beings, what was going on. They were changing and they were breeding with humans. I mean, that's just
or at the very least apes, right? Primates to create
better,
humans.
well said. Yeah, that's just says many more
And when you
questions.
think of apes too, more so with Maria, but I'm sorry, I kind of talked over you. I'm a little ADHD myself.
No, you're right there.
They have like barrel chests, very much like an ape too. I think Montserrat a little bit less. So again, we're looking at Montserrat, and if we wanted to, again, try to find that fetus, which again, it seems to be very difficult in my experience.
What do you think? They were trying to survive, and they were a dying race, or at least their numbers in that area were not enough to.
It might be a natural process of the earth. You know, a lot of times with our myths, we speak of the gods. I don't think we focus enough on the mother goddess or Mother Earth. And maybe the earth itself is just, this is a natural order of things to produce such a creature that become the constant gardeners. That evolution is partially true with time, but it requires a helping hand. And that might be ultimately the scary thing about being human, is that it might still need some sort of helping hand. Or we're just going to, if we put a bunch of humans in the woods, would like pigs, they just grow hair and revert
back. Yeah. Well, we have full-blown cryptid ideas of wild men, which would be people, away from society long enough out in the backwoods of these places that they start to revert back to something in earlier form. Who knows? Maybe there is a lot of, alien DNA that kind of, I don't know, the programming comes out or goes in.
Yeah. Maybe that's where some of our original myths or customs of not marrying within the family come from. So we're in the back of Montserrat. I'm trying to remove layers to see what sort of interesting soft tissue we can find within. And that could just be pareidolia. I don't know. I've never seen that before. Let's take it from the front. So I do spend a lot of my time, again, most of it's looking for the young, because I know depending on the scan and if I do the images and the light right, you come here, look at this. You'll come up with a good image. Like this one here looks very serpentine. Might be something there.
What made you start to look for this? These
it was the Hongshang pig dragons. These things. Then the Magatama and the Paracas and South American ceramics and fabrics that show serpentine shapes. And also there's a letter I noted. It's still around in Chinese, and it's called the Ji, or the child. And it's like a stick figure of a mermaid child. And I saw that in Semitic languages. I saw that in North American, Native American petroglyphs. So it was one of these global images where I said, oh, okay, so this looks like, if this is the child, then it looks like these guys are four-limb first amphibians. And that's exactly what I found. So again, the archaeology is predicting the biology, or at least Mr. Ed is, I am. So yeah, I'm just in Montserrat. We're just we're playing around with intensities. There's obviously a lot going on. I don't know. I don't recognize a lot of the organs myself. Some people claim they do. I'm still a little suspicious. It's still very foreign, and I don't know how much of this is damage, or are they even. What if we're looking at some sort of a nest, if you will? Is that another term we could use? Are these nests for the beings, brood points and whatnot? We're in Montserrat. There's still strange shapes. It's very hard. I would like to show you Raphael, the fetus, but I've never really was too successful. I think it's on the left side. And there's a close-up, looks like, of a Tridactyl head, larva head, plenty of soft tissue masses where it looks like many of the larvae were just trying to burrow their way out. A head here, a head here. Yep. We'll have to see if this gets either. I almost expect it to be denied for some reason. Like, this isn't true. This is all pareidolia. That's kind of, I almost expect that direction to go for no good reason. Okay, we're getting near where Raphael is suggested to be. What is this? Is that an otic capsule of another creature, or is that some sort of a bone of a child within? You know, I do this during the week too, guys. I'll just play like new age music, and for an hour, I just go through this looking for things.
Is listening to Enigma, looking at this.
Hi, hi, hi. Is that Enigma?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know if we saw anything too cool in Montserrat. Again, it's really hard to find that child that they say is in here. It's, I have seen masses of things, and I've seen a lot of other things more clearly than that Raphael. That's a little interesting too. I really expected I would see Raphael just stick right out. See, there's all this massive reflective stuff that I suggest could be either larval heads or even eggs, possibly. Dr. Fung has alluded to, he thinks he saw evidence of cancer. Again, I don't think that's cancer. I think it's larva like this one here, gnawing through bone. So I hope you guys eventually go check out Maria yourself.
I suppose there would be intrusive manners to see what was going on in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. I was asking Ed, if they did have a subject they could intrusively detect, if they went in there, they could see maybe these beings.
Yeah, because they have used scopes before to look inside the bodies. I also believe that you can actually see the larval forms on the surface on some bodies, and they've had the dry hand that they dissected, and I believe you can see the larval forms within there. But I don't know how to proceed, except perhaps eventually I should probably do a hands-on inspection, and maybe with some sort of high intensity, microscope or camera photo lens, and then maybe I can start to demonstrate this. Otherwise, it's going to take any of these other radiologists who go into this to come out and say, hey, wait a minute, I'm seeing something more in there. Otherwise, for now, it's sort of left to pareidolia, isn't it?
True. Yeah, we do need more study, or else, look, all we can do is speculate. So it's time to get back in there, guys. Doesn't matter if it smells like urea. Get in there. Let's figure out what these things are.
Exactly. And 6, hopefully we'll be getting the 6 DNA reports. And so hopefully that will change things. Okay, we might be able to see a fontanelle over here if I'm lucky. And that could be this could be Raphael's head here. This could possibly, that looks like, well, it could be a larva in the fontanelle. Yeah. And look at this strange shape here. What is this? What is that? Oh, you guys aren't looking.
I can't see it.
So I guess go full screen with this. So this could be, this is the general region where they say Raphael.
Oh, sorry, I hit the wrong button.
That does not appear to be in the center where she's clutching. Raphael's said to be over here on the side. I don't know. This is very highly reflective here. So that's a great candidate for a skull. And that space where it looks like there's also a larva could be a fontanelle. And maybe that is the skull there. Again, the best thing to do would probably be to put a marker in it. But, when I go in here, I'm looking at images like this. What's that? Forget Raphael. What is that? Those things kind of wig me out a little. So there is definitely a lot going on in here. I even wonder if these beings could be possibly dual uterine, having two uteruses. Okay, another just strange, anomalous features in here. I don't know how big even some of the larvae could have gotten. But I think Montserrat is far more complicated than, there's a Raphael fetus in there. I think way more complicated than that. When you start to zoom in, and remember, this is like soft tissue settings. I see, looks like, again, a tridactyl head, the reflective rostrum in the middle, perhaps a bunch of dining, even smaller larvae in here. So, yeah, they may have to just, for this mystery to be proven, you're right, they may just have to go in, right? I know nobody wants to do an invasive. Yeah, there's so many. I suggest there's so many other interesting things than possibly a Raphael, in my opinion. Isn't that interesting?
And I heard a rumor. It might just be a rumor, Ed, that there were dozens.
There may be hundreds or thousands, is what's being said.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Interesting.
Yeah, hundreds or thousands.
But there's only a few that's been presented to the public.
I guess, either the grave robbers are revealing them. Of course, the speculation, you can hear people create their own narratives. They're saying that they're building them as they go and they're learning as they go to make them better, or some weird story. And there's even small ones with sort of animal features that I haven't even got into yet. It took me forever to look at Maria and Montserrat because I was so interested in the little ones. And then when I finally got to Maria and Montserrat and found out that there was larvae in them too, I didn't expect that because I didn't see eggs in them. And now to see larvae in them too is just very strange, but it could be a very important part of demonstrating that these were authentic by showing that, hey, they both have the same amphibian forms in them. Even Wawita, which is said to be the faux, if you will, fake tridactyl, the manipulated one, who does suggest to prove evidence of having its digits removed. I've even found larvae in that one. And I'm reminded of the Bob Lazar comment, which is the aliens see us as containers.
All right.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How pleasant.
Well, we got those movies like Aliens. It's based off of some sort of ancestor.
Yeah, that always say, it comes out of you too.
So what are we experiencing there? Is that a subconscious memory coming to the surface? Is it a slow release of information? Or is it even something like the prophets of the past and, the gods drop these creative tidbits into people's brains to make franchises out of?
Well, it had something to do with this black goo substance that was dropped by these creator beings. And that black goo sort of metamorphosed into all of these different forms. And one of those forms that it took on was this alien thing. And so anytime they drop that black goo, there's a chance that it might turn into that and then start to evolve from there. So it's like a hyper evolution goo,
Right. And it's also, it's sort of presenting those creatures too as some sort of Genesis taxon, right? They're a species that's propagating the whole species, which that's what these might be.
Right. They got the face huggers and larval and all. Oh, man.
Oh, I know. And when you think of Artemis or any of these, and if they had larvae in them and they're literally trying to bore out of the body, I have said that alien story is strangely poignant. And again, I try to figure out myself, Is that just a subconscious memory, no different than religion in a way? We have to remember the past. I suggest have you heard of Garuda hunting the Nagas? It's a eagle-like creature that hunts the serpentine Nagas. I suggest that story might be just relating to something that happened even biologically within that predation we talked about. Can you imagine an intelligent species growing up in an environment like this and having a memory of it?
Well, what if they're farming these things to put into humans, right? So it's
or farming farming to keep the species going, or farming to create other animals. It's very strange down here. There appears to be lots of skulls. Look at these little tiny larvae are lined up feeding. Those are like two heads side by side. And also, it looks like
Deep Space Nine, they introduced this concept of this symbiote that would stay inside of your body and absorb the memories and then be transferred over to somebody else upon your death. So this thing is like an eternal memory source.
I wonder if they riffed on their own ideas for that from the Next Generation when they had that like season finale of this like creature comes out of like the Admiral's mouth. Ever see that one? And that was supposed to be like a launch of a huge like story, and I don't think they ever touched it again.
Well,
but just another example.
That could be the birth of this whole, right? Well, the idea of having this sort of eternal warrior, this returning character over and over through history, like that could have something to do with the alchemy of these Tridactyls. They've got some kind of a chemical or biological source that people are after. It's like this holy grail type thing.
Right. And we could have very well have hunted them. There's the myth of the heart, and the heart is a mythical stag that's hunted for its powers.
Artemis, always hunting the stag.
And it's interesting too. I don't know why we say this is a heart-shaped face. I think I showed you guys this before, but when you turn the Tridactyl head sideways, now it actually does kind of resemble an anatomical human heart, as opposed to our Valentine's Day symbolism of the face.
That's what Artemis of Ephesus is covered in, is just that very shape. So all over, kind of like ticks.
Yeah, almost like it's implying life of these beings came from me, right?
Right.
So, questions, comments, concerns, insults.
Oh, man. No insult.
You get one insult.
You're good. Some wild shit looking at these things underneath this.
Yeah, and I think everyone, again, should have their fun and go in there and, maybe they'll, I used to name them. Like the first one I found in Artemis, I'm like, screw it. If the researchers didn't know about it, and Terry seemed just as amazed as I was from the Alien Project, well, then I called the one I found in Artemis, I called it Cassus. But then I realized that there's like dozens of them everywhere. And so like I named like 6 of them or something. And I was just like, oh, this is exhausting. You can't keep doing this. But it would be fun, I think, for other people to maybe find one. We mark it and we give it a name, and maybe for posterity's sake, and it stays that way. Wouldn't that be fun? You can prove that you found a larva.
You could find them and sell the rights to naming them, like people sell the rights. Naming stars.
The only thing I sell, I got some T-shirts at Tridactyls.com if people are looking for some swag.
There you go.
But I always joke, I'm not a T-shirt vendor. I didn't get into this to be a T-shirt salesman. What is this weirdness? Look at that weird shape there. What is that? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to look at. You can look at it from, and it's not like a UFO picture. We can look at this from 4 different angles, right?
Right. Right. Indeed.
It keeps me busy.
It's awesome stuff, man. And real quick too, are you going to be speaking at any of the upcoming events and stuff?
Gosh, I'm trying to get in touch with Dakota, but he's so hard to get in touch with. if he said that maybe I could speak at Sedona, but I don't know if that's going to happen. That'd be cool.
Right,
but otherwise,
listed,
I don't have another engagement. I may just, what I'll do is I might just even do my own. So I might, ever hear of the Mai Kai here in Fort Lauderdale? No. Mai Kai is like one of the original remaining tiki bars. But when I say tiki bar, it is a sprawling complex of fountains and gardens, and they do a full fire show. You can look it up online to see the show. The Mai Kai, they'll do a fire show and hula girls and all that stuff, full of Polynesian artifacts. I mean, like, you look at the menu and you get like Tridactyls on your menu. That's how this phenomenon is. So I might see about maybe doing a lecture there, just because the setting is so unusual. I mean, it's been around since like 1950s, since Federal Highway was dirt, I understand. Johnny Carson would fly into town, and that would be like the first stop, and like him and Jackie Gleason and a bunch, Frank Sinatra, a bunch of those type of characters would hang out at the Mai Kai. So it's a really interesting place. If you ever get a vacation to South Florida and go to Fort Lauderdale, I mean, it's touristy. You're going to pay $30 for Chinese food, but they've gotten better. They've, even like one drink, I think sometimes is $30, but it's like really like 6 drinks in one. They're like these giant tiki drinks. So anyway, definitely, if you come to Fort Lauderdale, you have to go to there. Call me. I'll meet you there.
All right.
Yeah, so no specific speaking engagements. We're waiting for the DNA to come in. I'm waiting for more scans. I'd like to see Suye. I'd like to see Paloma. I still dip my foot into the cultural, but again, I like to do a lot of hunting on these larvae. I just feel like with the right day of the right intensity and the scans, I might be able to pull out just skeptic killers and hopefully get more people on board, and maybe more people will be engaged in the art of the dicoms themselves, right? And everybody else can start looking. That's what's going to make this fun. Again, especially if there really are larvae, like I'm saying, then everybody can go on these larva hunts themselves and find them. That'd be cool.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ed, for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me, because, I love to just talk about this stuff.
Oh yeah, no, you can definitely see you were enjoying yourself when you were talking to people, explaining this stuff.
Yeah, it's super fun. And so, just so you guys know, I do a at 7 p.m. show, like Sundays Eastern Standard Time, and then Wednesdays I decided to start doing a show on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. on X. That's just a Spaces, so that's just chit chatting on Spaces. But I did it like on Wednesdays to have a completely different day than Sunday, like something right in the middle of the week sort of thing. And then I do the impromptu larva hunts throughout the week, where I just show you these guys here with the, like you said, the enigma. But even this section here, I just full of larval forms and skulls, even as we say goodbye. So thanks for having me, guys. Let's do this again. Again, I think we could probably, I thought I was going to focus more on the cultural, but we really got into the biological. I really think I think I said last time, let me come back and do the cultural. I think I still have to do the cultural.
Yeah. No, because that was interesting. I've seen you cover some of the stuff kind of that I'm assuming you cover on here, and it's very interesting.
Yeah.
You see the crossovers. We see crossovers in different cultures, like kind of with the same imagery.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to do a part 3, I think, someday.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, guys.
Before we wrap it up, Headless.
Yeah.
Everybody know what's up with your stuff, all your shenanigans and stuff you got going.
You can find me at the Headless Giant Podcast at gmail.com. If you have any sort of esoteric or strange, anomalous, paranormal stories, send them there, and we will read those on Thursday. Mondays, we got the Alchemy Mondays with Arrows Up. We got to get that ready. And Tuesdays, we're talking 777. So check those out. And
what's 777?
That's the Kabbalah of Aleister Crowley. So he goes through his whole thing in there. So
I know a little bit about Crowley.
Right.
Acting, right?
No. Sounds a little sinister, right?
Yeah.
I know a little bit about Crowley.
Nice. Ethan, let everybody know what's up with you, please.
Well, thanks so much, you guys. Ed, that was awesome. Very, very interesting.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the
fascinating
questions.
topic. Yeah. No, thank you for all the depictions, displays, and everything. Ethan Indigo Smith, easy to find. I think I'm easy to find on the internets variously. I appreciate people reaching out, and writing and books are out there, easy to find too. And yeah, appreciate you guys.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming on. And Ed, is there anything else you want to leave people with to promote, plug, or so they can find you? Sites?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm at Tridactyls, Tridactyls on most major social media. If you go to tridactyls.com, you can find my cultural assertions and my biological paper, where I try to attack all of these very strange morphological traits.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. And thank you everybody for coming on the show again. Ed, I really appreciate it. We'll definitely have you come on to cover that the other stuff, the cultural stuff, because I would really find that a lot.
Yeah, I feel like I do have to do a part 3 because I feel like did I even do what I even came to do today?
Yeah, I would like to cover.
I guess the larva thing's on my mind lately, so
I get it. Yeah, it's what you're passionate about right now.
Yeah.
And thank everybody who jumped in on the chat. That's what's up. We had a lot of people in there, a lot of good
comments.
Thanks
for watching. Thanks for the questions.
Nice. Yeah. And that's the end of another Occult Rejects. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.